Hi, my name's Lindy and welcome to my channel. My website is www.lindycowling.co.uk and my email is info@lindycowling.co.uk. I do have sessions available for January and I am taking bookings for January now. That's for sessions, one-to-one sessions on Skype. So this very short impromptu video made this evening UK time, just in front of my Christmas tree. I don't know if you can see the reflections of the lights there or not. On the 19th of December 2019 is called I Can't Get Them Out of My Head. I Can't Get Them Out of My Head. Bit like that old Kylie Minogue song, I can't get you out of my head, that one. I'm bringing this out because this is a recurrent theme that comes up in the sessions I do, the professional sessions I do with clients, concerning connections and connection experiences and awakening experiences and ascension experiences, kundalini experiences triggered by meeting somebody else, activating with somebody else. It's stimulated their consciousness, it stimulated them on a consciousness level, it stimulated their heart to awaken, it stimulated the beginnings of that journey, or propelled them faster along in that journey. They might have been already on that journey and then propelled still faster. One of the themes that comes up over and over again is that theme, why can't I get them out of my head? I can't get you out of my head. Why can't I stop thinking about them? Why does this go on like this? Even if I don't want to think about them, even if I'm happily in another relationship or happily going about my life, or don't want to be in a relationship with them, or I do want to be in a relationship with them but they're married to someone else or doing something else or not interested. Why can't I get them out of my head? Okay, so there's a few reasons for this. So let's start from the top. If we look at the bigger picture here in terms of a vast stimulation, a vast activation, a vast ignition of your consciousness that may have been on a different rung of consciousness, on a different level, on a slightly different trajectory, partially dormant, then somebody with a frequency or vibration that is either the opposite to yours or very similar to yours or a direct match for yours connects with your energy field and stimulates a change in your vibration, a change in your frequency, a change in your consciousness, which sets off all sorts of wonderful byproducts and gizmos, all of which I've listed on my channel over the years. But it also sets off all sorts of uncomfortable, chaotic, triggering, sometimes it can feel quite negative and challenging things, because it triggers all of the stuff in your pain body. It triggers your belief systems, it triggers your programming, it triggers things that are held in you from your childhood. It triggers pretty much everything, so there's nowhere to hide. So although it can be almost like a heaven and hell experience combined, one of the reasons you can't get them out of your head is because they were the ones that kick-started that. So they were the ones that lit the match. They were the ones that switched on the light. They were the ones that switched on the torch. They were the ones that started that. So one of the reasons you can't get them out of your head is because they were where it started. They were at the heart of your heart. They were at the heart of your awakening. Even if it was just to trigger you awake and not necessarily walk alongside you. Of course, some of these connections are supposed to walk alongside you and be alongside you, but some are in for seasons and some are in for a lifetime. It just depends and varies. But the reason you can't get them out that you can't get them out of your head is because they are the ones that stimulated all this awakening within you. They might have kickstarted your kundalini, they've kickstarted your consciousness, they've kickstarted things within your energy. Your energy is moving differently. They've kickstarted those inner relationship template. They're upgrading your inner relationship template. All of this stuff is going on, being kicked off at the same time. So you're going to keep tracking back to where that happened. Just like in comparison, you know, you track back perhaps to mum because mum gave birth to you. You're going to track back to where it started. You're going to track back to that rebirth. You're going to track back to the birth of the real you, so to speak, metaphorically, and you're going to track back to the person or people or events or situations that kicked that off. So that's one of the reasons. Also, because it can be such an overwhelming thing and some, you know, life-changing really to go through these processes, turns you inside out and takes you finally into the heart. Your brain and your ego, your mind, really does try to make sense of it, and it tries to kind of put this into a compartment and try to work it out, and that can become quite obsessive where you're trying to work that out. There's nothing wrong with trying to work it out. It's a natural human thing, but you can really grab hold of that like a dog with a bone and not let go. And that can then lead you into belief systems around what you think it should be, what you believe it is, wrongly or completely wrongly or rightly. It can trigger you into the fairy tale of what you feel this connection should be, or what you feel it is, what you want it to be. It can take you into that fairy tale la land with it, which can become very obsessive, so you can't get them out of your head. It can also trigger you into a URL program, an unrequited love program. It can trigger your codependency, it can trigger your attachment, it can trigger very powerful soul patterns and what we call soul wounds in you, like abandonment and rejection, which have been there, you know, for millennia, that need to come up to the surface for healing. It can set off all of these things at the same time, so that you've got them all going on at the same time, and it can become quite manic on a brain level because you've got that going on where it's triggering your pain body, it's triggering your belief systems, it's triggering what you think it should be. Mostly it's triggering this stuff for clearing, but you get caught up in programming and belief systems along the way. When you're trying to make sense of it, and then you've got the stimulation of, well, it's this connection that has turned me inside out, so I'm going to keep wanting to track back to what it is. So you've got all these things running at the same time, which is why you can't get them out of your head. So it's a question of looking at why that is causing you so much pain, or why that's causing you so much angst, why that's bothering you so much. Now, you could say to me, well, that's just common sense. I don't want to be thinking of them all the time. There's a number of ways to approach this. The more you kick and scream and fight against your own thoughts on this, the more you set up a process of resistance, and then you set up really a kind of battleground in your own head and your own energy field where you're fighting against that. Number one is ask yourself why it bothers you so much that you can't stop thinking about them. You know, because if you go to war against that, you know, it makes that even bigger. It's almost like even relaxing into, okay, so I think about them once or twice a day, or 100 or 1,000 times a day. You know, I can still get on with other things. I can still get on with my life. But also you can look underneath that and think, okay, what is the repeating theme here? Is it because I'm hoping them hoping they'll fix some need within me? Is it that I'm hoping for a particular outcome? Is it that I'm wanting to force this to be a thing that it's not, or force it to be a particular way, and because it's not going that way, or they're not doing what I want, It's really aggravating me and frustrating me, and that's why, you know, it's bothering me continuously, like a wasp in my ear. There are a number of ways to look at this. Like I say, because there are a number of reasons for it, but the worst thing you can do is go to war with your own head, so to speak, in thinking about it. So first of all, look underneath to see if there's any familiar theme and pattern here. Is there a familiar obsessive like tendency under it? Or is it that you can't make any sense of it at all? You can't even work out why you would be thinking of them. It's not that you're longing to be with them. It's not that you're longing not to be with them. You're trying to get on with your life and they're just coming in your head. And if that's the case, if there's no theme or pattern that you need to look at or clear underneath to make sense of, then it's a question of asking yourself why it bothers you so much. Why would that cause you distress? Thinking of them a lot. You know, the first places to look are there familiar themes and patterns? Do you need to clear or heal any of that? Are there any obsessions in there? Are there core soul wounds in there? Is there a kind of history of patterns of relationship and it's triggered that in you, the memory of that? You know, it's looking at what those things are. It's sitting down like a bit of a detective really and working that out. But if you can't see any of that and you can't make sense of it, and sometimes it's, you know, let's be honest, sometimes it's plain chemistry, you know, it's plain chemistry, it's plain hormones, it's plain attraction, it's plain, you know, it's that plain kind of basic kind of level that is a very addictive, actually, chemical. I mean, those chemicals are very addictive when you are kind of loved up, so to speak, or fired up, so to speak, or, you know, feeling really kind of aroused by a connection with someone. That is actually very addictive, you know, it's in its own right. So that can also set up a little cycle. So it's a question of looking at that. I'm not saying that that's wrong, right or wrong. I'm saying to look, if it's driving you crazy while they're in your head all the time, these are the areas to look at. What is underneath it? What is really behind it there? And also why it's bothering you quite as much as it is. And, you know, they're on the spiritual side of it, soul side of it. If it's to do with a genuine awakening connection, you know, that's someone that's actually shifted your consciousness, someone that's actually triggered you to go into the heart and start on your journey into the heart, someone that's to do with an ascension process, they've activated ascension process within you, you've activated it within them, then there is that also that bigger picture scenario of, okay, they've kind of triggered my rebirth, or they've triggered the beginnings of the revealing of the real me. So it's kind of natural to track back to that. With the passage of time, and it is the passage of time, it sounds very corny and blasé, but with the passage of time that will ease off. As time passes, that too passes. I mean, this too shall pass. Once you've really sort of seen if there is anything behind it or patterns behind it and why, based on the reasons I'm suggesting here, for example, or why you know, by then you've kind of made peace with it and just accepted, okay, you know, once I stop punching and kicking and screaming against thinking about them, actually it doesn't have such an importance in my brain, and in the end it kind of fades into the background and kind of disappears for people entirely eventually. So don't kind of worry about it. There are a number of these reasons, these being kind of the main ones, that this happens, and it's extremely commonplace, especially when these are awakening connections or big soul connections, whether they're old soul connections or ascension soul connections, ascensionary soulmates, or whether they're twin flame template related, or they're catalyst related, or matching consciousness related, the list goes on. You know, it's very commonplace for you to be thinking about that a lot of the time in the early stages, in the early days, in the early years, so to speak. As you connect with people and go through your journey onward, upward and inward, as time goes on, any kind of manicky, obsessive-y, triggery stuff is no longer in you. So at that point, if you're thinking about them a lot of the time, it's just because, you know, you're kind of associating them with this wonderful bliss-like, joyful, happy feeling, and then meeting you on that level conscious playing field, and it doesn't cause you any angst or pain. It's actually really, really lovely. You know, it's a very different thinking about them all the time. It's not driving you crazy or making you want to tear your hair out. So I'm going to keep this short and sweet. This may well be my final video on YouTube before Christmas. I suspect it will be, and I suspect I'll put one more out before Christmas on Patreon, and then the next time I'll be back up on Patreon and back up on YouTube. So the two different things will probably be round about the new year. So if I don't see you before, have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, all of you. Happy holidays to all of you across the world. And take care of yourselves. Have a great time. Look after yourself and look after those that you love. Take care, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.